Today's Monday, March 1st, 2021. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered. The Republicans in Georgia House have passed a massive voter suppression bill. It now goes to the Senate. We'll talk with Barbara Arnwine, Transformative Justice Coalition, about what we can do to try to stop this bill. Speaking of voting bill, Congress, they're going to soon be debating a federal voting bill that could pretty much stop what's happening in Georgia and other states. It is priority number one for Black America. We better understand it. Also, we'll talk about the various vaccines, including the new one from Johnson & Johnson, with a ranking member of President Joe Biden's COVID task force, Dr. Cameron Webb. Jackson, Mississippi, they have not had water for more than 10 days. We'll be joined by Mayor Chokwe Lumumba to talk about what's going on in that city. Plus, in Minneapolis, they have scrapped this plan to hire social media influencers to spread positive messages in advance of the Derek Chauvin trial, which starts next week. Also, folks, today's crazy-ass white person comes to us from UCLA. What an idiot. Plus, the benefits of high-intensity fitness training in our Fit, Live, Win segment. All right, folks. We also remember Irv Cross and Sheila Washington, two African-American pioneers who passed away. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
I warned you that Republicans in Georgia and across America were going to do exactly what they are doing. A couple of hours ago, House Bill 531 passed the Georgia House, an onerous voter suppression law. It does a number of things. Stops Sunday voting. Pretty much stops all absentee voting. Folks, it is a shameful and despicable bill that we must target because this is what they are going to do to steal future elections. Joining us right now is Barbara Arnwine with the Transformative Justice Coalition. Barbara, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We've been covering this story consistently. I told folks after Biden-Harris won, after John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock won, this was going to happen. What Republicans are doing in Georgia is what they want to do all across the country. We heard it from that crap yesterday with Donald Trump at CPAC. They're talking voter integrity. No, this is pure voter suppression, and it's all about stealing elections.
Absolutely. And they are doing this everywhere. There are 255 voter suppression bills pending in 43 states. That's how they are responding to the success of what we did to get Black voters and Latino voters and Native American voters and Asian voters and young voters to turn out and vote. And in response to that, they come up with these ugly, vicious voter suppression bills. And they have decided that drop boxes and they have decided that absentee ballots are the boogeyman and that they have to, just absolutely do everything they can to destroy those two forms of voting. And they're also after early voting. They're also in Georgia, they're beyond out of control because not only did they do what you mentioned, think about this, Roland, they cut runoff voting from 9 weeks to only 4 weeks.
Folks, what they also have done is, and this is the key, they want to not just stop Sunday voting, but they want to cut off weekend voting as well. They want to shrink this as much as they can. This is a tweet that Ari Berman sent out. It lays out what's in House Bill 531, folks. Go to my iPad. Limit Sunday voting to one optional Sunday in each county. One. reduce ballot drop boxes by requiring them to be located inside early voting locations. What the hell?
Well,
Require a driver's license number, state ID number, or copy of photo ID to vote absentee. Sets a deadline, y'all, look at this one. Sets a deadline to request absentee ballots 11 days before Election Day. Disqualifies provisional ballots cast in the wrong precinct. Ban outside funding of elections from nonprofit organizations. Prohibits governments from mailing unsolicited absentee ballot applications. Creates instant runoff voting for military and overseas voters. Schedules runoffs 4 weeks after Election Day rather than the current 9 weeks. Prevents, y'all, this is how bullshit these people are. Prevents free food and drinks for voters waiting in line to vote and restrict early voting buses to emergencies. If y'all want to understand how sadistic and pathetic these people are, they literally are saying you can't pass out water.
I mean, remember, this all started during the runoffs. When we were there on the ground, as you know, Roland, I was there. I lived in Georgia for 2 months, did nothing but work with all those great groups like Helen Butler's, Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda, and so many other great groups, including Latasha Brown's Black Voters Matters. And we saw this where all of a sudden, because people were grateful to get some help after standing in line for 2 and 3 hours, they were grateful to get some kind of food, some kind of assistance. And what Sperber did right before the elections, 2 weeks before, he said, I'm going to put all y'all in jail for helping people in line. And it was a really ugly threat. And I had to explain to a lot of the groups that there was no legal basis for it. And that's why they're coming up with this law now, is to consolidate his threat. And people get this wrong. They think that somehow because Raffensperger would not lie about the vote count, that he's some kind of liberal. That's just not true. This man absolutely came up with a whole lot of ugly voter suppression rules during the time that we were there for the runoffs and during the general elections. People got to understand that, in Georgia, you got this long, vicious, ugly history. Remember, they lynched Maceo Snipes in 1946 for voting. Remember that they killed and assassinated people down in Early County 100 years ago for voting. People forget that in Georgia, they still have to this day, Roland, to this moment, what they call blacklists by employers for Blacks who vote. And who vote as they think too progressively, and they prohibit them from being employed in several counties down in southern Georgia. Let's not get this twisted. This is really a long, vicious history, and it's being manifested now with these new laws. Now, remember, we've seen this before. We saw this with the monster bill back in North Carolina, in 2014 and 15. And we will see this again everywhere where we're fighting. But I want people to understand that the number one thing that we have to do is to fight back. We can't sit back and just say, well, they're going to do what they want to do. They're going to be all racist and mean, and there's nothing we can do about it. Yes, there is. And there's a lot that we need to do, like, urgently about it.
So what are you calling on folks to do?
I am calling on people to immediately do a couple things. If you're in Georgia, it's not over yet, right? They got to go to crossover. They got to reconcile all these ugly bills. They got, several of them in the Senate. On the Senate side, they got this crazy omnibus bill coming out of the House. And so there's still time, if you're in Georgia, to call your reps and raise a whole lot of sand about this and make sure that they know that it's opposed. We need you to do that, by the way, because at some point this has to go to litigation if they pass, some of this evil stuff. They've already withdrawn a few of them, but we need to really fight this new wave. And what we want to do is make sure that people complain. That's first. But secondly, and more importantly, is we've got to talk to these Democrats in the House of Representatives, the U.S. House of Representatives, those on the Capitol, in Congress. We got to tell them, and we also got to tell those senators that they must pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Remember that if you had the Voting Rights Act, if Section 5 was in full effect, none of this could happen. None of this would be legal. None of this would be acceptable. They're only doing this because they know that they're, within very short period of time, they see their political futures gone, but they also believe that there may be congressional passage of the Voting Rights Act. So that's why they're trying to jam and rush all of this through as emergency legislation. So it's very critical that you're calling right now your senators and you're telling them to do everything they can to pass what's called H.R. 4 coming over to the Senate, which is called the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And you need that. I know there's a lot of emphasis on H.R. 1, and that's great, and that's necessary, because it would help with some of these problems. But we need H.R. 4 because it not only would stop all this voter suppression, it also will help when we get to redistricting, which is coming up in the fall. We got to think, strategically, long-term, and very well. But at this point, unless the Dems and others in the Senate, take steps to not make sure there's no filibuster, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, unless we do that, we're going to be in these battles for years in every single state in the union. 43 is almost all of them. So we need everybody on board. Don't sit back and think that you don't have a dog in this fight. Don't think every one of you got a senator. Every one of you have a voice. Every one of you can call that hotline, that congressional switchboard at 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121.
All right, Barbara Arnwine, we surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, folks, let's go to my panel. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president emerita, Bennett College. Eugene Craig, CEO, Eugene Craig Organizations. Michael Brown, former vice chair, DNC Finance Committee. Eugene, I want to start with you. Guess who's real quiet, Eugene? The trifling-ass black Republicans from Georgia. Where's Elvita King? Where's Angie Stanton? Where's Vernon Jones? Where's Bruce Lavelle? Where's sorry-ass Paris Denard? Where's little punk-ass C.J. Pearson? Where are all these little black Republicans running their mouths? They're not saying anything about this.
Well, you shouldn't reasonably expect them to say anything about it. They aren't going to take hard stances on black issues. They aren't going to take hard stances on anything outside of what's going to get them more clout and more dollars from white conservatives. I wouldn't be shocked if you saw some of them come out and actually take a stand in support of this atrocious bill. That's their stake, that's their grift, that's how they make their money, that's how they stay relevant. It's either that or them infighting amongst themselves.
It is clear, Julianne, what I have been saying, and every time I talk to some of these people, oh, no, I've spoken as an individual. No. This is where you should have black Republicans as a collective speaking nationally, calling this out, like Colin Powell did when he went to North Carolina a few years ago, when he called out the governor of North Carolina to his face in a public event for a voter suppression bill.
Well, they should be talking. They should be talking about a lot of things. I mean, CPAC just met this weekend, and you didn't see these people didn't have anything to say. They're not going to have anything to say now because Eugene is right. First of all, they're getting paid, and secondly, they're getting clout. So they are basically, for lack of a better word, kiss the white man's behind. And I could say that better, but that's what came out. Kissing, basically acquiescing. Now, they all claim they believe in the vote, the free and fair elections, but those provisions that you laid out that Barbara Arnwine went through with you, none of that is free nor fair. What is wrong with giving somebody a bottle of water after they're standing in line for a couple of hours? or a protein bar. There's nothing about that that's wrong, except for the fact that you want to wear people down so that they are too tired, too thirsty to stand in line anymore. You want to run people away. And that's what they've been doing, discouraging voters. Georgia is the worst, but as Ardenwine said, there are 43 states. So we really want to know what those states are and what their provisions are. But if they use Georgia as their playbook, we're going to be in trouble all over the country.
Michael, this bill, if passed, is going to put pressure on Dems in Washington, namely Sinema and Manchin, to get off their asses and stop opposing the filibuster. You're not going to get 10 Republicans in the Senate to support the John Lewis Voting Act. Not any of those trifling-ass Republicans who would ride down to Selma with John Lewis and take pictures like they want some kind of Negro field trip and oh, how great things were, and they come back to D.C. and do nothing. Senator Tim Scott doesn't have the guts to stand up and fight for black voters and tell his party what they're doing is wrong.
Absolutely. Ms. Ardenline was exactly right. And you're right. Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema should not be given a pass for a bill because they claim they're moderate. And, we have to take advantage of this opportunity because who knows what's going to happen in 22 with other kinds of elections, whether they're stolen or not, or whether these voter suppression laws pass. Ms. Ardenline, again, is exactly right. HR 1 is extremely important, but HR 4 is just, it's the ball game. This should, frankly, the John Lewis law, I know it wasn't the John Lewis law bill before this, but it really should have been passed a couple of decades ago and had the opportunity during the Clinton administration when you had the House and the Senate. I have to say, even the Obama administration in 08, or in 09, when you had the House and the Senate. So we've had several opportunities to try to get something like this kind of bill passed. And now it's on the doorstep again. And the junior senator from Arizona and the senior senator from West Virginia should not be given a pass. Yes, you're right about the filibuster. On something like this, the filibuster has to be eliminated.
Eugene, the Supreme Court is going to be taking up another voting rights case dealing with Section 2. They likely are going to gut that. If Congress does not pass this bill, Republicans are essentially going to guarantee themselves a free run for the next 10 years or longer. I don't know what the hell these Democrats think they're doing. I don't know how in the hell they think they're going to be able to hold on to the House and the Senate majority in 2022 if they do not pass a major voting bill.
You got to pass a major voting bill. The right to vote, the right for people to choose who their elected officials are, who their leaders are, who the folk in power are, is a sacred, should be protected right. And look, I think this should have been priority number 1 on the agenda. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. And, look, HR 1 is important. HR 4 is more important, as Michael said. But the thing is this. You got to drive it through, and the filibuster has to go. The filibuster cannot be a stopgap, a hard break to good legislation anymore. It's an antiquated relic of the past. It's been used to stop or try to prevent good legislation pass. Don't get me wrong, there are some good filibuster moments, but at this point in time, it's just a tool to stop actual progress and protecting people. And so I think, in the immediate, Schumer needs to, put a vote on the calendar to pop it and, have Vice President Harris there to cast a deciding vote and call it a day.
Look, there are a lot of things, and look, I totally get the COVID bill, Julian. I get the bill the House just passed dealing with transgender in sports. I get all those bills. After COVID, this is priority number 1. After this, the George Floyd Justice Act is priority number 2.
Absolutely, Roland. Absolutely. This should have come up, much sooner. As Michael said, we've had other opportunities to pass this legislation, just like we've had other opportunities to deal with D.C. statehood, where we had both the House and the Senate. And that's something that we really need to hone in on. But, what we have to understand is that our founders, the founders of this country who wrote the Constitution, they weren't Democrats. They weren't Democrats, and small d Democrats, democratic. They were autocrats. And that's why you have an electoral college. That's why you have a filibuster. Basically, it's not about one person, one vote. It's about figuring out ways that autocrats and petty capitalists can have basically everything they want. And so the voting right, as you said, the Voting Rights Act should have been restoring a Section 5, the John Lewis Act, H.R. 1, H.R. 4, should have been up first. Certainly the transgender issue is important, but nothing is more important than guaranteeing our right to vote and getting relief to people who have been hit by COVID.
Michael, I've said this. Black groups, voting rights groups, prepare themselves to drop 50 to 100,000 people on the nation's capital. There has to be maximum pressure. I'm talking about in the face of every single Democrat. Any Democrat wavering. This has to be the absolute strongest bill, because here's the deal. When you talk about these elections, these congressional elections, U.S. Senate elections, presidential elections, those are federal elections. Those are federal. And you can require multiple drop boxes. You can allow folks to pass out food. Every single thing that they've put in these bills, you can actually counter it. It needs to be the absolute strongest possible bill. I'm talking about you put everything in it and you dare a single Democrat to oppose it.
I agree. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to look at it strategically. You have to basically say you don't get a pass on this one. There's nothing you get a pass for. And look at it this way. Keep in mind, if the situation was reversed and if it was Majority Leader McConnell, you better believe he would eliminate the filibuster to get a bill done that he wants, because that's how he plays. That's how the right play. They play. Now, we played unbelievably well in this last election. I mean, obviously, all the boots on the ground, the people that did all this wonderful work to get people out to vote, kudos. But it can't just be a one-time thing. The right, they do it every single election, local and federal. We can't just say, okay, we got Biden and Harris in, we're done. No, we're not done. Clearly, we have a lot of work to continue to do. You're right, Roland. They should not, no one should get a pass, whether that means Speaker Pelosi, whether that means my frat brother Whip Clyburn, whether that means Steny Hoyer, putting the maximum pressure, obviously that's on the House side, but then Mr. Schumer, putting maximum pressure. And if somebody starts to waver, you have to pull out all the stops, like threatening committee assignments. That's how important this bill is.
Folks, it matters. We're going to keep pressing this. You see our lower third that you see right there. It has the phone numbers of the key folks. Y'all, write this down right now. We're going to get their emails as well. You should be blowing the phone lines up of Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan. That's 404-656-5030. Blow up the phones of House Speaker David Ralston, 404-656-5020. Blow up the phones of Governor Brian Kemp. I'm talking about jam them up. 404-656-1776. We're going to get their emails as well. We're going to get their inside phone numbers. We're going to put it out there. They need to feel the heat and the pressure of our people when it comes to this particular bill. And do understand, this is not the last bill. 43 different states, they put bills up. You're going to see, if this passes Georgia, mark my words, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, Arkansas, they're going to try to pass this bill all across the state. In states they control, I guarantee you it's going to happen. This is why we must tell President Joe Biden, tell Vice President Kamala Harris, tell Senator Chuck Schumer, tell House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and you tell Kristen Sinema of Arizona and Joe Manchin of West Virginia, we will rain holy hell on your head if you do not move on this particular bill. I'm talking about pressure every day. I'm talking about in their face, meaning we're going to be in the chambers. We're going to be at Capitol Hill, walking the halls. They got to see voting signs every single day. This is about white Republicans wanting to control political power for the next 20 to 30 years. They know they can't win at the ballot box. They know that they have to cheat. We're not going to let them cheat. Folks, this is game on. It's simple as that. And that's the Florida bill. And again, in Congress, the For the People Act, known as the House Resolution 1, is going to be debated on the floor this week. Now, it should pass, but the question is, how major will it be? I told you all of that, what it has to contain. And so it has to be a strong bill. We're going to keep you abreast of what happens when they debate this on the floor. We're going to live stream this on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So prepare for that. We're going to be all over this. And this is where you need black media standing up. This is where I need all these damn black entertainment folks. This is where you got to have Black Enterprise, Essence, Blavity, Shade Room, Jasmine Brand, Bossip, all these folks, BET, TV One, OWN, Aspire, all of these black networks. This needs to be game on for all of these people. Damn anything dealing with sports and entertainment. That stuff means nothing because this is about our right to vote. Let's not talk about the vaccine, folks. Johnson & Johnson's coronavirus vaccine gained regulatory clearance on Saturday, making it possible for more people to get the shot. Unlike the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, this only requires one shot and is easier to store. It's no secret that the COVID vaccine rollout didn't get off to the greatest start in December because Donald Trump, the idiot, was in charge. It has improved, although large state-by-state disparities remain, and many are complaining that they can't get the shot, especially lots of black folks. Joining us now, Dr. Cameron Webb, Senior Policy Advisor for COVID-19 Equity with the Biden administration. Dr. Webb, glad to see you here. Always good to see an alpha brother. Sorry, Michael Brown. That's the way it rolls. Cameron, let's get right to it. One of the issues that we still continue to see, black folks, I'm here, not shots being administered in largely black areas. I was talking on the phone to somebody, Texas Southern University in Houston. Shots are being administered. Shots being administered to Walmart on the south side of Chicago, 10 black folks in line, everybody else white. And so what is being done to get the word out, to let black folks know where shots are being given, how they can get in line, how they can access it?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me this evening. And I've had this conversation about how important it is to get the word out. And right now, we're keeping track of exactly where we are in this process, who's eligible to get vaccinated, and making sure that they know that it's their turn. That's kind of the message that we've been giving folks, is make sure you get vaccinated when it's your turn. So kind of to that end, there are a couple of things that we're doing. The term vaccine hesitancy has a couple of different flavors. One is vaccine confidence, and the other is vaccine convenience or access. So on the confidence side, yes, there's a public education campaign that we're launching this month, actually, now that we're in March. And so that's going to be an important dynamic. And again, you and I have talked about how important it is to make sure that black media is involved in that effort. We've got to reach out through the channels where people are listening. And so we're going to make sure that that's a priority. The other side of it, that education campaign, is making sure that we're reaching people with trusted messages from trusted messengers. And we do that both, through paid media, but also just through those normal relationships that exist, making sure that the community organizations and those trusted messengers across our communities have the best information possible. The vaccine access side of things, we just need to increase the number of venues for vaccination. So yes, that's those mass vaccination sites, but it's also smaller mobile sites, making sure that we're nimble enough to get vaccine in the places where people go, whether it's, their church or community-based organizations, whether public housing, whether it's, other frequented community locations. Those are the spots that we need to get vaccine, and then also through their pharmacies and federally qualified health centers. So we're working on vaccine access, we're working on vaccine confidence. We think that putting those two things together is going to help us get through and get, as you said, get black folks vaccinated. That's so critical in this moment.
We are seeing an increasing number of folks take it. The other day, Dallas County Commissioner John Wiley Price took the vaccine and made it perfectly clear why it's important to counter the conspiracy theories and the people out there who are saying don't take it. Tom Joyner took his shot last week as well. So there are a number of African Americans out there, especially black men, who are encouraging folks to take the vaccine.
Well, and keep in mind that those concerns that people have about how safe the vaccine is or how well it works, those concerns come from somewhere. They come from a deeply rooted sense of how much people can trust the institutions that are responsible for vaccinating them and the institutions that are giving them information about this vaccine. So if you go back 401 years, there are lots of examples of the Black community in particular not being given the best information or the best opportunity to get and stay healthy. And so this time we have to lead with transparency. We have to show people exactly what's real and what's not. But there are also organized misinformation and disinformation campaigns. People are trying to really confuse and muddy the waters. And so that's why it's great when we get some of these influencers, some of these folks going out front saying, hey, here's why I'm getting the vaccine. Here's why it matters to me, to my family, to my community. And I think the more folks do that, the more it normalizes this vaccine process, and it creates spaces for people to have those authentic conversations with trusted messengers. And that's what we want to see. I always tell people, I'm not here to sell anybody a vaccine. I'm here to just make sure that people have the best information possible to make a decision for them. And we believe that the decision to get the vaccine is a decision to prevent death, to prevent severe illness, and to save lives in your community. And we think that in the Black community, people will make that decision.
Questions from our panel. Julianne, you're first.
Roland mentioned earlier, white folks coming to Black communities to get the shot where Black folks aren't there. Is there anything that can be done about that? Or are the sites just open for anybody?
Yeah, a lot of things are being done about that. That was a phenomenon we definitely saw playing out early on. And what we said was we have to reserve spots for the communities that we're aiming to get vaccinated at those sites. So one ways that, our mass vaccination site in California was doing this is they were allowing community-based organizations and faith-based organizations to reserve registration spots for their members, for the people who they know, for the people who need to be vaccinated. So that's one mechanism. And then the other mechanisms are just saying that for some of our sites, whether it's pharmacies or federally qualified health centers, that they are required in our federal programs to make sure that a certain percentage of individuals who they give vaccines to are from that community where they're situated, because we're going to them for a reason. And we think that putting those teeth behind the vaccine program is going to help to eliminate some of that tendency for folks to come in and take vaccine. All
right then, folks, I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Dr. Cameron Webb. Have a good one.
Good to see you, man.
All right, folks. Coming up next, we're going to talk with the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. They have been without water for a number of days. Residents have been complaining about what's going on. We'll discuss that next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
I believe that it's movement time again.
In America today, the economy is not working for working people.
The poor and the needy are being abused.
You are the victims of power, and this is the abuse of economic power.
I'm 23 years old. I work 3 jobs.
Work 7 days a week, no days off.
They're paying people pennies on the dollar compared to what they profit, and it is time for this to end.
Essential workers have been showing up to work, feeding us, caring for us, delivering goods to us throughout this entire pandemic, and they've been doing it on a measly $7.25 minimum wage.
The highest check I ever got was nearly $291. I can't take it no more.
The fight for 15 is a lot more than about $15 an hour. This is about a fight for your dignity.
We have got to recognize that working people deserve livable wages.
And it's long past time for this nation to go to 15 so that moms and dads don't have to choose between asthma inhalers and rent.
I'm halfway homeless.
The main reason that people end up in their cars is because income does not match housing cost.
If I could just only work 1 job, I could have more time with them.
It is time for the owners of Walmart, McDonald's, Dollar General, and other large corporations to get off welfare and pay their workers a living wage.
And if you really want to tackle racial equity, you have to raise the minimum wage.
We're not just fighting for our families, we're fighting for yours too.
We need this. I'm going to fight for it until we get it. I'm not going to give up.
We just need all workers to stand up as one nation and just fight together.
Families are relying on these salaries, and they must be paid at a minimum $15 an hour.
$15 a minimum anyone should be making to be able to stay out of poverty.
I can't take it no more. I'm doing this for not only me, but for everybody. We need 15 right now.
This is Diala Riddle.
What's up, y'all? I'm Will Packer.
I'm Chrisette Michelle.
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
For more than 10 days now, half of the residents of Jackson, Mississippi have not had running water. Officials said a majority of the city will see water restored soon, but caution there may be further delays because of water main breaks. Joining us right now is the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, Chokwa Lumumba. Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Roland. Happy to speak with you and your listening audience.
Folks were sending me tweets over the weekend. So what's going on? What caused this?
The fact that we don't have a weatherized water treatment facility, which would have been millions and millions of dollars of investment to do so. During the winter storm that we suffered a couple of weeks ago, it led to the collapse of our mechanics in our water treatment facility. Valves froze, the screens of the portion of the facility which the inception of water comes in was complicated, and it brought down the PSI to about 37 PSI, and it takes about 90 PSI in order for water to distribute all across the city. People were still consuming water. It drained the reserves and the tanks. And so essentially we have to start over from scratch in filling tanks and distributing water across the city again. The prolonged period of time in which the winter storm stayed around the city also made it even more, it complicated the problem even more.
So we saw the same similar issues in Texas where they were impacted due to the cold weather there. Was this on the city? Was it on private folks? Is exactly, whose fault is it? And what break are residents going to get? The water bills, in terms of what is happening there. Also, are you also telling them to boil their water? I mean, so really, what's happening with the folks who do have access to water? Absolutely.
So the city was not unprepared. The city was unequipped. The problem is decades of a lack of investment in an aging infrastructure. Also coupled with the fact that we are experiencing hotter summers, colder winters, and more rain during our rainy season, which is taking a toll on our infrastructure. Those are the contributing factors. That's why, we've seen this same narrative not only across the South, but specifically here in Mississippi in multiple cities. And so that's a failure over time of both city leadership. That's the failure over time of state leadership and the federal government to understand that legacy cities are in need of strong investment in terms of our infrastructure that serves people each and every day. And so our efforts have been not only to restore water, but to meet people where they are with the resources. There have been distribution efforts across the city ever since we've been faced with this emergency circumstance, where we've been delivering water to those areas that are hardest hit. Here in our city, South Jackson gets it worse than the rest of the city because they are furthest away from the treatment facility, which means that the water has the furthest distance to travel to reach them, and especially those individuals living in high elevated areas. It is hard for them as well.
So it's been 10 days. When you say restore soon, what does that mean? Next few days, a week, 2 weeks?
Well, the way that the system is structured, it doesn't give us an update like updating our phone where it tells us an estimated time in which the update will be completed. What we can know now is that we are towards the end of our journey because we know that people at the furthest point for which we deliver water Many of those residents are starting to give us reports that they are seeing restoration of their water. But that requires consistency in the pressure that we are issuing. These systems were not meant to be shut down and restarted in this way. And so because of the natural occurrence that led to the shutdown, we are now having to build back up. And so, it's not necessarily a matter of not knowing what to do, as it is that time is a part of that solution. And so we need the time for tanks to fill. We need the time to balance the pressure and those issues that are competing issues and the domino effect that we suffer at an event like this.
All right, then. And Mayor Chukwulumuma, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Thank you. One of the things that this reveals, Michael, what happened in Texas, what's happening there in Jackson, Mississippi, is that these very basic, fundamental things that citizens take for granted, it's amazing what happens when things start acting up. Things like water, electricity, heat.
And you hate to look at everything being political, but you kind of have to look at it that way. Red states like deregulation. They like companies and power companies and water companies to be able to determine exactly how they winterize, if they're going to winterize at all, how they're going to do bills to the consumer, whether they're going to adjust them upwardly. There's so many different ways, and it just happens to be consistent in red states. We have all this deregulation. So then when Mother Nature and God comes in to create an event, as the mayor just said, it's not that they weren't equipped. They weren't equipped or weren't prepared. I forget what he said. It just made a lot of sense. And that's what's happening in these red states where governor after governor after governor keeps deregulation in place so these companies can do whatever they need to do. When tragedy hits, they're not ready.
It was interesting, Julian. I saw this this one story that said that the deregulation of electricity in Texas cost residents an additional $28 billion. To me, that's sort of like a poster, a meme that anybody needs to distribute anytime Republicans start yelling deregulation. And that's not the case that happened here in Jackson. But again, part of the issue that we face is that basic fundamental things, when all of a sudden, when something happens, oh my God, people go crazy. But this is why you have to pay attention to infrastructure, water, electrical grid, bridges, very basic fundamental things that Americans, we love talking about technology and apps and stuff like that. No, it's the basic stuff that when you lose it, you lose it.
Well, Roland, our infrastructure, our national infrastructure is crumbling. As you mentioned, bridges. About 10% of our bridges could fall anytime. You look at water supply. We saw it in Flint, now Texas, now Mississippi. Any state can have this kind of problem. We look at the quality of our schools. We get a D- according to the American Society of Civil Engineers, a D- on the quality of our schools. And we could go down the list. Deregulation is part of the problem, but the other piece of it really is spending government dollars on infrastructure. Now, that man who used to be the president campaigned on infrastructure, but nothing happened to infrastructure in those 4 disastrous years. Now, hopefully, President Biden will take a different approach. Federal dollars need to be joined with state dollars, and in some cases, local dollars, to provide basic needs. You're talking, like you said, water, electricity, gas, all the basic things that we expect people to have. I mean, when you looked at Texas last week, when you looked at those lines and everything else, reminded you of a developing country, not the United States. And when you look at Mississippi, saying people have to have running water for days. I mean, again, that reminds you of a developing country. When I went to Ghana a couple years ago, somebody told me to bring my own bottled water. So I put a case of water in my suitcase. And, it lasted me a week. That was good. But I'm just saying, you expect to do something like that in a developing country. You don't expect to have to do something like that in these United States. So our government, our national government, has been neglectful. And so Brother Lumumba, when he talked about not being unprepared, how could they prepare with a crumbling infrastructure?
Eugene, as I keep saying, it's the basics. It always comes back to the basics. And that is, we saw what happened in Texas, lack of preparation, how deregulation, but also it also speaks to in this country what unfortunately happens when the pursuit of profits over anything else. That's one of the reasons why you don't have the federal funds going towards infrastructure, because folks are like, oh, no, 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 that's wasteful spending until you need it. Then they go, why wasn't it fixed? Because you idiots called it wasteful spending.
And I agree with you, especially in the broader context of infrastructure spending. But I think, in particular, in the situation in Jackson, I think if we're keeping it in the buck, there's a reason why the city council is fighting with Mayor Lumumba right now over this very issue, and it's not because of federal funding; it's because of the mayor's not providing proper leadership on this. It's an issue that he's been raising for the last 3 or 4 years. But unlike some of the cities in the Delta that dealt with the same issue, if not worse, there's been no bond bills put on the table. There's been no plan put on the table. Even today, he couldn't give a straight answer on when, folk are going to get their water back, if it's going to be days or weeks. And kind of danced around it. But I agree, hey, there needs to be federal funding for infrastructure. The basics of bridges, gas, electric, things that keep society running should be priority. But I think that, there's responsibility at all levels, particularly at the local level. And I think the mayor said it best, that, hey, there's a failure of leadership, and I think also that includes himself.
Absolutely there. All right, folks, so let's talk about what's happening in Minneapolis as they're getting ready for the trial of Derek Chauvin. They're scrapping an idea to pay influencers to spread positive messages on social media during the trial of Chauvin, the ex-police officer who killed George Floyd in May. City council members initially voted to pay Black and Latino social media influencers $2,000 to pump out their propaganda during the trial. But after feedback from the community, city officials announced they will no longer move forward with the strategy. Instead, the city plans to hold weekly meetings with neighborhood organizations and send emails with information about the trial and community resources in hopes residents will stay calm no matter the verdict. Okay, that's just a dumbass idea, Michael. I mean, seriously? You're going to pay social media influencers to go, hey, Minneapolis is great and wonderful. Ignore the cop kneeling on George Floyd's neck. Ignore all of that happened. Just come and party.
Yeah, they're trying. I have no idea what the thinking was. All I can think of is they're trying to prevent maybe these major protests and want to give people a positive spin on what's going on. But sometimes you overthink a problem or overcompensate how to create a solution, and this is one of those situations. Bad idea. Glad they put it down. I guess when it first came up, somebody said that's a good idea, and I'm glad better heads prevailed.
Julian?
I found the whole thing amusing, Roland. I mean, they're going to get influencers to say what, and how is that going to change the community's mind? I mean, some of the people who would be out there protesting do not pay attention to these influencers. They don't know who they are. So it just seemed to be like one of the most absurd things I've ever heard of is propaganda to the nth power. And I'm glad that they just decided not to do it. The community meeting idea is better, but basically you cannot make chicken salad out of chicken spit. And therefore, what the trial is going to go on, people are going to be upset. People need to be upset, and these people need to be convicted. But how rare it is for people to be convicted, for police to be convicted when they mistreat or kill a Black person.
Eugene, paying social influencers, that's really not what your big problem is. How about you hold cops accountable?
I mean, look, I think it's hilarious. The city of Minneapolis can find money to spend on almost everything except bettering the lives of their citizens. I can't wait for the next election to see how many of these city council members get tossed out. It's just, there is a place for social media influencers. Making the city of Minneapolis look good in the wake of George Floyd and Derek Chauvin is not it.
I'm just like really confused by the whole social media deal. All right, folks, in North Carolina, legislators are reintroducing a bill that will require the State Board of Education to incorporate lessons on the Holocaust and genocide in the English and Social Studies curriculum for middle and high school students. Activists in the state are urging lawmakers to shut down the bill unless it is amended to include Black history. The bill, which also calls for a Holocaust studies elective to be offered to students, does not mention expanding Black history or at all. Last month, the State Board of Education voted to approve measures requiring K-12 social studies teachers to discuss racism and discrimination of marginalized groups. Julian, you were president of Bennett College there in North Carolina. It has always been striking how America has been far more willing to discuss in depth the Holocaust, which did not happen here, which took place in Germany, as opposed to the American Holocaust, which impacted Black folks, or people of African descent during slavery, but also the 92 years of Jim Crow after Reconstruction.
You know, North Carolina is an interesting state. And I'm not surprised that the Holocaust studies has moved forward. I'm also not surprised that Black studies has not moved forward. Americans do not want to look our history in the face. When you look our history in the face, you find all kind of inequities, persistent inequities. North Carolina passed a law in 1836 that read, in part, to teach a slave to read is to excite dissatisfaction to the detriment of the general population. This was a law. A white person teaching an enslaved person to read could be fined up to $400 then, which was a lot of money, a fortune. Black people could be flogged up to 40 times then. So this is a state that did eugenics, that sterilized people, Black people. They were supposed to pay some reparations. They never did. This is a state that very recently, Reverend Barber had to start Moral Mondays there because of some of the nonsense. So this is unsurprising, but I hope that the legislators who say you must include Black's history, I hope that they hold firm on this, because there are too many white North Carolinians who would not go along with this. They don't want to look their racism, their historical racism in the face. They don't want to know. If you teach students, young people, about the history of enslavement, about the Jim Crow laws and the racism, about the evisceration of the Black Wall Street in Durham, North Carolina. If you taught young people this, perhaps they would not turn into Proud Boys when they grew up.
Eugene.
I mean, look, I think the Black history absolutely should be included. I think it should be a mandated part of the core curriculum. But the thing is this, I think Julian's right. What we do know is that when people are more educated, they typically tend to toss aside certain ideologies and beliefs. And look, just imagine how few people from North Carolina will call the Civil War the War of Northern Aggression and acknowledge it for what it really was if they actually had an actual curriculum that reflected the actual history.
Michael, again, I think it's, look, this is not a question of pitting one against the other, but the reality is, if you're going to teach American children Holocaust, you can't ignore what took place in America.
Absolutely not. And, it's interesting, and Eugene and Julianne laid it out perfectly. There's not much more I can add, except it'd be interesting if a young white child learned that a Black person was 3/5 of a person. You kind of intuitively say, wow, what does that mean? Why did they do that? Which will give you some other historical perspective. How about during Reconstruction? All the people of color, Black folks that were elected to office all around this country, because obviously people were able to vote and had a different time period than in between slavery and Jim Crow, as you laid out. But then their answer is not them, some of them, their answer is, well, you have Oprah, you have Michael Jordan, you have Obama, everything's fine. And that's their concept, rather than the history of Black people in America, that we built some of these great monuments that you see here in Washington, that you see around the country. The reason the South has an economy is because of the Black folks. The reason they screwed it up is because they weren't paying Black folks, and then when they finally had to, it messed up their whole equilibrium. So if all that was taught, who knows? Maybe young white kids would have a different perspective about what Black folks mean to America.
Yeah, but part of the problem is you got these white parents who really don't want their kids to have to learn about these things. And frankly, it's safer for them to say, yeah, we can discuss the Holocaust because frankly, it didn't happen here. See, again, that's how, like, I love all the people who go, yeah, we're going to go build wells, all these white conservative evangelicals, we're going to go build wells in Africa, but you'll bypass poverty in America.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, oh, sorry, Julianne, go ahead.
So, Roland, look at North Carolina again. Michael talked about that people had been elected. Moving to North Carolina, 1896. Black people and Republicans, they were the good guys then, came together to try to change the political structure. White folks literally took the most prominent black men in that city, arrested them all, kept them overnight, and then gave them one-way tickets to leave town. One way, they had to leave everything they had. I mean, when you think about that, that's what white folks don't want their children to know. They don't want to know that history of how so much property was transferred, how much damage was done. And they're in denial. It's just like, as Eugene said, these people talk about the war of northern aggression. I mean, they know what time it was. They're still behaving as if they won that war. They lost it. Again, they lost it. But they don't want to deal with that. So, you still have people teaching some of the craziest things. The Civil War was not about enslavement. It was about states' rights. Yeah, the states' rights to have slaves. I mean, it's just flabbergasting that, again, that we're having this conversation in 2021. It's a conversation that perhaps should have been had in 1901 when curricula were being put together, because we really must have a curriculum that reflects reality. But again, I forgot, we used to have a president who didn't know anything about reality. And this weekend just spent all his time telling lies. So truth is not a core value in this country.
Absolutely. All right, folks. The family of 23-year-old Jakari Simmons is looking for answers after Simmons was pronounced dead just 1 week after he was sent to a Harris County, Texas jail. Simmons' cause of death is pending an autopsy, but he was involved in a documented altercation with a detention officer the night before his death. Authorities say the officer hit Simmons in self-defense, but the blows landed Simmons in the jail's medical clinic. He was released the same night and found unconscious in the morning. 2 detention officers have already been demoted to administrative duties while the Houston Police Department conducts an investigation into the incident. He also called his mom a number of times while he was in prison, while in that jail. And now that 23-year-old is dead. We have seen from previous cases, Eugene, how there's you talk about lack of response to stuff that happens when it comes to police officers, even more so to inmates who die in jail, because there's this attitude of lock them up, throw away the key, they're trash, they're garbage, they really have lives that don't matter. That's really the attitude of a whole lot of people.
It is, and it's wrong, right? The thing is this: somebody that's in custody of the state or the county is in custody of the state or the county, which means that the county is responsible for them. Whether that's a police officer, whether that's the EMT, whether it's a correctional officer, the responsibility ultimately falls on the back of the state, and the state, me, and the police. And so the thing is this: this has to be aggressively pursued, this has to be assertively pursued, and this has to be relentlessly pursued. You don't just get into a fight and then you die, and then, think that, the CEOs are going to be absconded from the responsibility of that person. It's not how this works. It's not how it's supposed to work. And they need to be held responsible.
This is really a problem consistently, Michael, because there really is this pervasive attitude that people who are in jail, who die, their lives don't matter.
And, again, this is America, and we have a different standard. And the standard should be that whether you're in jail, in prison, in county, in some kind of detention center, or not, you still are a life that should be treated properly and fairly. And as you've heard me mention a million times, Roland, I'm going to continue to mention it. Until you put, and obviously correctional officers are obviously law enforcement, until you put immunity and folks' pensions on the table so they think twice about how they treat people, this is going to continue, whether it's in jails and prisons or on our streets. It's just how it's going to be. And just like whether it's any of the examples we could think of. If an officer has to think twice about pulling his gun or his taser or shooting in the knee instead of the chest or head, we may have a whole different way of life of how law enforcement treats people of color. But because they know, all they have to do is say, you know what, my life felt threatened. And that justifies blowing somebody's head off. That's why.
Julian.
Michael is exactly right. You got to make there's some consequences to do this kind of behavior. This guy was 5'3" and 125 pounds. Said he got into an altercation with one of the jailers. Come on. This guy just went upside his head and hit him, and basically he died. And that person should not be pulling a check, should not have a pension. Not only that person, but let's talk about who's in charge of that jail and what their role is and action is. See, because these things don't happen. We hear about the guy who was killed, who died, but we don't hear about the other, I don't know how many, who had altercations, who were hit, who didn't die, but they were still brutalized. And we don't hear about that. That's what we need to know more about.
Yeah, well, it is really sad, and hopefully we can get some real answers to what is taking place with this story. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back, more on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Can he see me? Yes. Can he hear me?
It is great to see you, Madam Vice President.
Victor, it is so good to see you. The history making that you are doing, we are so proud of you.
It is great to talk to you. Welcome to the International Space Station.
As we think about the history that you are making as the first African American to be on the International Space Station for a long duration of time, I want to ask you, as you are in the process of making history, how do you think of those upon whose shoulders we stand and how they have inspired your work?
Actually, I think about that piece often. You know, all 7 of us up here are a part of an amazing legacy of human spaceflight. Everything every astronaut or cosmonaut has ever done has led to us being here now in this special time. And so I really appreciate that legacy, and I try to work my hardest to honor it. I think about right now, and it is a time that we should celebrate and be appreciative of the current state of human spaceflight. But really what I'm most excited about is the future of human spaceflight and the fact that this is going to be the future. This is what we're going to do for the foreseeable future. And so making sure that, yeah, that was a first, but it won't be the only time that that's happened. We want to make sure that we can continue to do new things.
My mother would say to me, Kamala, you may be the first to do many things. Make sure you're not the last. So I understand you recently got some fresh air because you went on a spacewalk outside of the space station for the first time. What was that like?
One of my colleagues said to me to keep your world small, to focus on the thing right in front of you and then slowly widen out that worldview. And that really helped, because the first time that I did just sit back and look down at the Earth, I just wanted to do that for the rest of the 7 hours that I was outside. It was pretty amazing, but we had a lot of work to do. So it was also very busy and beautiful.
You are seeing Earth from such an incredible view. You have an ability to see the challenges that are facing Earth from space. What do you see as the challenges for Earth based on where you are in space?
It is just a spectacular thing to see from here. And it's very obvious from up here is how thin our atmosphere is and just how special it is for there to be human life on this planet. And so it makes me want to do all that I can to protect that.
You are inspiring us, and you are reminding us of what is possible when we dream big and when we think big. So thank you.
Hello, I'm Bishop T.D. Jakes.
How y'all doing? It's your favorite funny girl, Amanda Seales.
Hi, I'm Anthony Brown from Anthony Brown and Group Therapy.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
The pressure continues on New York Governor Andrew Cuomo after a second woman has come forward to say that he sexually harassed her. Yesterday, Cuomo dropped a statement where he talked about flirtatious language, and he did not realize that it was making his subordinates uncomfortable. The first woman detailed her encounters with Cuomo in a post on Medium.com. The second was in a New York Times report. What's interesting here, though, is how quiet Democrats are. Michael Brown, I recall when there was an allegation of sexual assault against Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax. Within seconds, Terry McAuliffe, the former governor, called for him to resign. Numerous Democrats called for Fairfax to resign. Here you have two women who worked with Cuomo, who have now talked about sexual harassment. The second woman said she went to two superiors immediately, showed New York Times, they corroborated the text messages. Cuomo's position yesterday was different than the first accusation. Why are Democrats so quiet about Cuomo?
Well, I'm not sure I've heard crickets. I think I've heard some Democrats speak out. Everyone seems to be on the same page. And I'm certainly not here to defend the governor. I don't know enough about the facts. One thing I do know is we need to hear what the women have to say and believe what they say. But some Democrats have come out and said that they support this investigation that Attorney General James will run with an independent lawyer. So Democrats have said it. All the leading Democrats have agreed for an investigation. No, I probably agree with you. I haven't heard any Democrats call for his resignation, except for some that are in the state house or the state Senate of New York, who may be either political opponents. They could be Democrats, could be Republicans calling for his resignation. So I have heard Democrats speak out, not for resignation, but for investigations.
Yeah, but it's not been, it's been slowly happening, Julian. But frankly, Democrats covering for a favorite Dem. Let's just call it what it is.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, when you look at Senator Kristen, her last name is escaping me, but the woman senator from New York,
Gillibrand.
She basically hounded Al Franken out of the Senate, almost singularly, for an accusation that went years back. Now, this stuff happened within the last couple of months. Well, certainly one accusation was at the end of the year. And I mean, he acknowledged, you don't ask people if they've had sex with older men, with your old behind. You don't ask people that. I mean, that's inappropriate workplace language. It's not funny. It's unacceptable. And I mean, Cuomo has been a favorite son, but that should not excuse him. I think he should be forced to resign. I really do. I don't think, Gillibrand didn't call for an investigation for Franken. He has to go. It's ridiculous. So they have the double and triple standards here. I mean, 6 months ago, Andrew Cuomo was a golden boy of the Democratic Party. People were talking about him as a possible vice president or even, presidential candidate. Now, basically, he couldn't buy chopped liver at a dog pound. So I just think that the double standards are very disturbing, and the language as reported, and I do believe the women are telling the truth, they seem quite credible. The New York Times writing was very persuasive. If these things are true, he has no business in public office, period.
Eugene, what do you make of, again, Democrats slowly, speaking about Andrew Cuomo?
Keep that same energy. When the allegations around, Lieutenant Governor Fairfax came out, they wanted to run him out of town and out of town quickly. And those were flimsy, to be honest about it. They were kind of flimsy. And look, he even said, go ahead and run the investigations. And his story never wavered or changed. Now that they got a favorite son in Cuomo, who's supposed to be a rising superstar again, there is protection and silence and not attacking, right? And it's inauthentic because when you were dealing with Lieutenant Governor Fairfax, Democrats from around the country were demanding he resign, and you had pretty much no real corroborated evidence or anything.
I mean, look, many of them did not even call for an investigation. They said, quit now.
It was get this black man up out of here, and we'll get the white Virginia Democrat machine to replace him, right? Because they didn't want him there in the first place, if you recall, back in the election in 2017. But now you got, your favorite son, white governor out of New York, who, stood up to Trump and X, Y, and Z. You're not keeping the same energy. If you're going to be authentic, keep that same energy.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. You're going to bring it up. Be consistent. Be consistent when you talk about stuff. But unfortunately, that's not what they're doing. Last night's folks did the Golden Globes, and I didn't watch that bullshit. Why? Because the Hollywood Foreign Press Association has no black members. None. 0. In fact, the former president told Variety on Friday they have not had a black member in 20 years. 20 years. So I said, look, I'm not giving y'all my eyeballs. Didn't tweet about them. Hey, the black folks who won, that's great. I appreciate that. But at some point, you don't reward people for screwing you over, for ignoring you. You don't. I'm going to go to my panel right now. If Michael Brown would get the hell off the phone while we're sitting here talking. Michael, get off the phone.
All right, sorry, buddy. Thank you.
Put the pink phone down.
Sorry, when my children call, I got to answer.
Who called?
When one of my children calls, I have to answer.
All right, that's good. I thought you said your preacher called. I was like, man, come on. I like, you ain't fooling nobody. Let's talk about this here. Come on. This shows you the fraudulent nonsense here. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association. You've not had a black member in 20 years. Okay, let's be clear, y'all. First of all, with the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, you have to write for a foreign publication covering entertainment. So you trying to tell me ain't no black people at any foreign publication? Y'all, the requirement is not you have to be based in the United States. Like, there's not one. 2/3 of the world made up of people of color. They have not had a black member, Michael, in 2 decades.
I mean, obviously, it's a disgrace. What's the? Isn't there a African American woman that's head of one of the award shows?
Well, no, she used to be head of the Oscars. Used to be head of that, but still. And here's the deal.
Yeah.
NBC pays the Golden Globes or the Hollywood Foreign Press Association a whole lot of money to air. This is where I believe there needs to be diversity writers placed in these contracts. So just like you have some actors who said they're going to sign diversity writers that to work on a movie, the crew has to be X percentage diverse. Guess what? That's what should happen when it comes to this. There should be, say, Hollywood Foreign Press, yo, you ain't got black members, we're going to slap you with a serious penalty and cut the fee we pay you because of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a disgrace. I mean, I don't know what, especially, and you mentioned, obviously the demographics of the planet, but also just the demographics of Hollywood. It's not just white men running things anymore. You have women, you have Black, Latino, Asian folks running things. So it's just interesting that they're not looking as Hollywood as diverse and lefty as they are, have not taken the steps relative to executives looking like their members.
Julian, I love these people who was like, oh no, hey, we didn't even realize there were no black members. I mean, we just didn't notice.
That's just hilarious. And they know better. They know better, but they're not going to do better because nobody's going to make them do better. And that's why I like your idea about the contracts. I like the idea about saying, if we're not going to broadcast you unless you have this percentage of, of diversity. of Black folks, of Asians, Latinos. It makes no sense at all. But this is how deeply entrenched racism is in this country and how acceptable it is to be racially exclusionary. Now, many of those folks will tell you they're not racist, but it's okay with them. So if you walk into a room and it's all white men and you don't say anything, you've co-signed that. And that's what you have all these people doing. They're so happy to get their awards that they're not paying attention to the composition of the institution that's selecting the awardees. That's where basically looking at the big picture comes in.
Eugene.
Look, I'm gonna tell you my position. This harkening back to a conversation that took place on Clubhouse like 3 months ago with like 21 Savage and Meezy and crew. We can't keep waiting for these white organizations to either give us a seat at the table or acknowledge us. I think it's about time that we have to have our own award shows. We have to have our own organizations. We have to have our own associations because we at the point where we just gotta build our own table and then extend it and create seats for folk. Because if the foreign press that runs the Golden Globes can get away for 20 years of not having a Black member, who knows what else they're going to get away with. And look, in the age of 2021, there's way too much access here. There's way too much bandwidth where, we can't build our own award shows, our own acknowledgments, our own platforms to acknowledge Black arts, Black creatives. And I think that's the trajectory we should go on. I think it's great to force writers within contracts, hey, maximize the leverage, maximize the check. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to keep, until we build our own and acknowledge our own and add value to our own, we're going to continue to keep running into this, whether it's the Grammys, whether it's the Golden Globe, whether it's the Emmys, whether it's the Oscars, whether it's the MTV Awards, whatever. Because we have no control, and we're essentially, going to continue to have to keep begging for crumbs when we can beat the whole loaf.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I think it shows you again the nonsense that we hear from these folks. It sort of sounds like the people who say we can't find any Black board members, we can't find any Black executives, we can't find any Black law firms, we just can't find any Black people, and and again in 2021. And my whole deal is like, you got to call it what it is. And that's why my piece is you slap them with some serious fees and penalties. And I just made a point that, that's why, I was not going to reward them with my eyeballs. I mean, I was just, was not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
And look, I agree with you. I didn't watch, I didn't tune in. I heard, Chadwick got a posthumous award. That's great, but they weren't getting my viewership and weren't getting my attention. And there was a lot of folk like that. And I'm pretty sure ratings dropped as they have been year over year. But I think, by the same token, because this isn't an isolated situation, the Recording Academy is going through the same thing. All the other major award shows are dealing with and going through the same exact thing. But I think, in all honesty, harking back to the conversation that took place on Clubhouse 2 months ago, that it's about time we built our own. When the Soul Train Awards come around, everybody needs to support it. When NAACP Image Awards happen, everybody needs to support it. And look, there probably should be another 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 award shows that honor our creators, that honor our folk. So it don't matter if the Grammys want to go to war with The Weeknd because he got a Super Bowl slot and it's conflicting with their stuff and whatnot. It provides a way to protect Black creatives, Black artists, Black film directors, and their work, and honor and acknowledge them.
This I just saw this headline here, and I could not help but laugh. And I got to get y'all thoughts on this. And go to my iPad. Jim Jordan calls for a congressional hearing on cancel culture, citing Dems targeting Fox News, Newsmax, OAN. Eugene, you know what I find to be interesting? Am I the only one who remembers Bill O'Reilly attacking Pepsi for having a deal with Ludacris?
Yep.
That forced Pepsi to drop the contract?
Yep.
Dude, I recall a number of campaigns from conservatives. I mean, didn't conservatives try to cancel Mickey Mouse in Disney because they allowed gay people to come to their parks? I do recall that. I mean, I just find it interesting.
Well, listen. We can go back 3 weeks ago. The conservatives on the Hill attempted to cancel their own conference chair. So if Jim Jordan wants to have a conversation on cancel culture, I think the Democrats should welcome it. And the first person that should be invited as a witness is Liz Cheney as conference chair of the Republican conference.
I just get a kick out of these white Republicans who are Giulianians. All is just grievance, and so they've just, oh my God, we're canceling. Hold up, I thought you went off and started your own. I thought you didn't give a damn. I mean, it just amazes me. And in fact, how many times have we heard conservatives demand people get fired for saying things or doing something or running afoul of them? I guess they might want to redefine what cancel culture is.
I don't even know how the term came into play, but I do. They canceled Colin Kaepernick. They surely canceled him, and we go down the list of all the cancellations that have taken place.
I recall Donald Trump saying, "Get rid of the son of a bitches." Yep.
So this congressman doesn't have anything to do if he wants to call for hearings on cancel culture. What he needs to call for is hearings on his mental health.
No. He needs to call for hearings on them boys who got sexually molested at Ohio State on the wrestling team when he was one of the coaches. Oops. Guess we don't want to go there.
Nope. He wants to come up with
gavels. Dems have gavels. I would say let's do that. You want to hear on cancel culture? Let's have a hearing on wrestling teams in Ohio that have players or wrestlers that have been molested, and see where it goes. I mean, look, at some point in time, at some point in time, Dems got to learn how to fight. And you fight fire with fire. When somebody chooses violence, you sometimes have to choose even more violence and light everything on fire and see who survives.
Michael, I just love the whining. Oh my God, it's cancel culture. Grow the hell up.
Yeah, they do that best. They're great whiners, and they like to point out deficiencies in everybody else except themselves, and that's how they've been doing it for decades. It's no secret. Jim Jordan is, he's one of the biggest hypocrites walking around, as Eugene just certainly outlined. But the former president, or former number 45, I guess it'll be 45, but the former president has been the king of cancel culture. Anyone that comes out against him or doesn't like what he says, he wants to cancel them and wants to tweet bad things about them. So is Jim Jordan going to bring that up? Probably not. So, who knows? I'm glad he's not chair of any committee. So I doubt that it'll come up unless he just does it on his own privately.
All right. Y'all know what time it is.
No charcoal grills are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, Carl.
Illegally selling water without a permit
on my property.
Whoa! Hey!
You don't live here.
I'm uncomfortable.
So, UCLA dismissed one of his cross-country runners after he was recorded having a meltdown because his girlfriend cheated on him with a black guy. Right there, y'all, is Chris Wheeland. He was suspended when this coach first found out about the recordings. But after the audio of Wheeland using racial and homophobic slurs hit the internet, UCLA said they were banning him from their athletic program. Oh my Lord, listen to this.
What did you do when she said that she
I was very respectful and, and then until I asked her about what she did last night. Oh, nothing. Did you do anything? No, I swear. Oh, really? Did you dance with them? Yeah. Did you kiss him? No. You sure? Yeah. Did you kiss him? No. 10 minutes later? Yeah. And then I told her to get the out.
And then what did she say?
She got out.
Well, I know what her backup, her thing is going to be, that you've cheated on her before.
Yeah, that's not a good excuse. What, so we can get even?
Yeah, but, okay.
When she said she doesn't, want to get back together, why do you think? It's because she wants to be with this who has no future. She's going to be with a stupid who's going to be in community college all his life.
Christopher, don't talk like that.
I don't give a
Yes, you do. You know what? Don't be crazy and do crazy things. You don't talk about people because you don't want him to kick your ass or whatever.
I'll beat the out of him.
You know what? Don't talk like that. Why would... You know what? Move forward. Move forward. You said you're done with her? Then move forward. I mean, just move forward, make yourself better, work on things, and if things are meant to be, she'll come back.
I don't want that back.
Okay, well then, you know what? There's a lot of other nice girls out there.
I'm sure there are that won't cheat.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep.
Where does that kid live?
I don't know, probably the ghetto. I'm sure Kayla knows, though. I can ask her.
No, you know what? You don't need to ask her.
I'm joking, I'm not going to ask her.
I know, but you know what? You have to. You guys were broken up.
Okay, but she only did that as an excuse to be a that night. She knew that too. She wouldn't have left over a streak. Is that not true? She found a petty excuse to end it so she can go take out with this guy.
The whole thing with the streaks, get rid of them. They cause trouble. They're stupid. I would be too. But you say she has them. They're stupid. It's a lesson to learn. Get rid of the streaks. Don't have streaks with people. And don't be sneaky about... I would be too. If...
You're really trying to justify her being making out with guys on New Year's.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, you're trying to justify her being a little That's all she is. That's all she ever has been. And she knows it too.
Christopher, you know what? Let me tell you something.
I'm going to hang up now.
You need to be careful of that. Remember, you're not going to talk bad about her.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
You know what? It makes you look bad.
It'll make her look bad.
No, it won't. No, it won't.
Okay.
You don't want to trash talk her.
I'm gonna go.
Okay, text me when you get home.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, first, my 24-year-old niece says the streaks reference are in regards to Snapchat and how often you interact with other people on the app. Okay, whatever. All right, Julia, here's why I'm laughing. Dog, you cheated on her. Now you're mad because she slept with a black guy. I had the sense there was penis envy going on here. Oh, he probably lives in the ghetto. Oh, and I love he's going to be stuck at community college for a long time. That little white boy, he actually went to community college before coming to UCLA. I found out And the whole deal, you mad and upset, but y'all broke up. And now you've been kicked off the UCLA track team and kicked out of UCLA. Bye-bye.
Talk about cancel culture. Anyway, I was cracking up, Roland, when I was listening earlier to the tape. This poor child doesn't have a clue. And like you said, it's probably penis envy, among other things, and racism. And I'm glad UCLA kicked him off the team, but it really is amusing. The only thing one could say in his potential defense, not really, is that he's in his early 20s. People don't have a fully developed brain until they're about 25. So, he's brain deficient, and that's something that's going on. The woman who was talking to him, I guess it must have been his mom or something. I mean, she was very patient with him and told him not to use that kind of language. But apparently, he learned it somewhere, maybe at home.
Well, first of all, his mom was like, look, you're going to get in trouble for saying this. No, I'm not. Yes, you might.
I just
Why did
say
they?
this. I'm pretty sure
Did the
that the answer.
Hold on, Eugene, hold on. Mike, go ahead.
Did the mother release the tape? Is that how this got out?
Hey,
I can't imagine she.
First of all, we don't know if that was the mother or not. We don't know who the woman was.
Oh, I see.
It sounds like an older woman. It sounds like, but I don't know what it is. But bottom line is, he gone.
Yeah, as he should be. And it'd be interesting. I wonder if he's gone because he dropped the F word, or because he dropped the N word, or because of both. Because in this cancel culture that we're in, it'd be interesting to see, what really tipped the scale.
Well, actually, here's the deal. The UCLA found out about this, and then he got suspended. But the coach put him back on the team. But when it got out, is when they were like, yeah, you got to go. And the comment was from the coach. It says, and this is from Anderson reinstated Wheelan in January, but, quote, after team members in the athletic community expressed concern, meaning black athletes, it became clear that his continued involvement with the team is incompatible with the culture of mutual support and respect we're fostering. I now realize that the decision to reinstate him was not the right decision, and that the action today is best for the well-being of our team. Translation, the black athletes were going to walk.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Eugene, go ahead.
I was just going to say, look, with the outcome of this, I'm pretty sure the ancestors looking down smiling. All I can think about as he was going on having his meltdown is the meme that goes around with Martin and Malcolm looking down on the field of a black man whipping a white slave. I mean, this is these type of situations. these type of situations, he thought he was going to get his stuff off and drop all the niggers, and it was never going to get out. And here we are today.
Well, and the thing is here, Chris, the internet's going to be around for a long time. And everywhere you go. In fact, every woman you try to date, don't Google your name.
That's right.
And I would suggest you not go around any brothers anytime soon. Might not end well for you. Got to go to a break. We come back. High impact intensity training. We'll talk about that next. Fit, Live, Win on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
I've had the privilege of working closely with President Biden to tackle tough issues under intense and often high-pressure situations. And I know firsthand his commitment to defending our nation and his steadfast support of the men and women that he now leads as our Commander-in-Chief.
There's no aspect of our agenda of the 21st century leadership where the women and men of the Defense Department do not have a role, whether it's helping curb the pandemic here at home and around the world, or addressing the real threats of climate change that are already costing us billions in impacts on our bases and our national security, or being part of an ongoing fight for racial justice. You are essential to how we must rethink and reprioritize our security to meet the challenges of this century, not the last.
Hi, this is Essence Atkins.
Hey, I'm Deion Cole from Blackish.
Hey everybody, this is your man Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
HIIT stands for high-intensity interval training, a form of training that is characterized by short bursts of intense exercise alternated with low-intensity recovery periods. Does it actually work? What does it do? Joining us right now is fitness expert Jim Jones. Jim, what's going on?
What's up, Roland?
All right, then. First of all, I thought I trained you better. That's a horrible-ass shot. Big-ass light behind your head. I mean, what? Dude, I thought I trained you better than this.
You did, man, but your producer set me up like this, man. So what you want me to do, Roland? But you did teach me better than this.
Turn away from the big mirror behind you and the big old spotlight. That way, I mean, we can. Thank you. Turn more.
We good to go?
Turn more. That way, we got the big old bright light, look like the moon in the. There you go. That's better. That's better.
Okay, we good to go. We good to go.
That's better. My goodness, I swear we went over this stuff like before.
I think so, once or twice.
All right, so Avery Woodley, who is a fitness trainer, we had her on the show out of St. Louis. We were texting, and she said, I was talking about, I got to do this award show. I said, yo, I'm going to drop 8 to 10 pounds in 2 weeks. She was like, okay, you got to do HIIT training, she said, because you got to mix it up. And I was kind of like, okay, got it. So I have Dr. Ian Smith had this shred video. It's about 15, 17-minute video.
Sure.
And it's a combination of where I'm on, I do like these 4 intervals on a treadmill, 4 intervals on elliptical, 4 intervals on a bike, and then you do a final cycle on each one.
Okay.
So I did it today. So what is the benefit of it? What does it actually do?
So you know, Roland, HIIT. A lot of people don't like HIIT because HIIT is a lot of work, right? HIIT, you really got to go in there. You gotta get that high intensity. And so what that's gonna do is gonna allow you to burn more calories in turn, which is gonna burn more fat. And for HIIT training, a lot of people don't know you're burning fat even when you're done working out because your metabolism is so ramped up. Even when you're done, an hour after your workout, you're still in a caloric burning zone.
How? But how? I mean, how? Like, okay. So she explained to me. Okay, well, so before I'll be on the elliptical, and the goal was to burn 375 calories, and I typically would do that anywhere from 26, 28 minutes.
Okay.
But then today, when I did the HIIT training, which was about 15, 17 minutes,
yep.
I did about 260 calories, but it obviously, look time, but that's supposed to be more intense. So.
For sure.
So again, explain that. So is it the short burst? Is it what is it? I mean,
So what it is? Yes, you're just moving. You're just working out so much more intense in a short period of time, right? So you can work out for an hour. I can do 30 minutes of HIIT and burn more calories than someone who's working out for 2 hours because I'm in that anaerobic burning zone, right? I'm at a high intensity for a short period of time. I'm training. On for 1 minute, off for 30 minutes. On for 1 minute, on for 1 minute, off for 30 seconds. Excuse me. So that's just more intense than you just going through your regular progression, your workout where you're changing the song. You're going at your own pace. That HIIT really keeps that accountability, so you're constantly under the clock. If that makes sense.
So is it the amount of calories that are being burned, or is it again the raising of the heart rate? The intensity of that moment versus sort of this steady sort of like, okay, I'm building up a sweat, and it takes me 45, 50 minutes to burn 400 calories.
For sure, yeah. So that HIIT, it keeps you in that fat burning zone, right? And you don't get to that zone until your heart rate reaches your heart rate gets to a certain point. So the HIIT gets you there much quicker, and then you reach the fat burning zone a lot faster than you would with just a conventional workout. So like I said, I can get there. I can with the HIIT, you can hit that zone within the first 10 minutes. With a conventional workout, you could be working out for 30 minutes and still not even get into that fat burning zone.
So, so let's talk about the next part. And panel, get ready for your questions, because I know Eugene and Michael. I know Julian ain't trying to ask no questions in this one here.
Oh, Eugene ain't got no questions. I already know Eugene ain't got no questions.
Wow. Wow.
That's my man. What's up,
Jim is throwing shade big time. This video here is this is the Ian Smith shred, and you see this is on the bicycle where the high intensity interval went like 45 seconds, and then so then it goes down to low intensity, and so even though when you're going low intensity, you're still moving, but you're lowering the intensity of let's say the resistance on the bike, the elliptical, or the treadmill. So explain the whole thing of like after the workout is done, you're still burning.
A lot of people don't understand that. After your workout's going, when you're hitting that anaerobic rate, when you get that rate high, after the workout, your metabolism is still running strong. You got it so revved up, so you could be burning calories for up to an hour and a half after you work out. You can still be burning calories, right? So I know a lot of people like the sound of doing nothing, burning calories. So the HIIT workout gives you that. It's a little tougher in the beginning. Like I said, you're burning calories for a couple hours after the workout, and that's an added benefit.
So I did that plus weights. How many times should you be doing a HIIT workout per week?
I say, for someone like Roland, it sounded like you had a pretty aggressive goal. So I would say anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week for that goal that you had.
Okay. Questions here, Eugene?
Yeah, let's get it.
I mean, I was going, so I guess my question for Jim, that's the bro. I know HIIT is cool and all, but I saw a video with the smoothies. I was going to ask about the smoothies, bro. Like, how we get the smoothies popping?
Right. That's actually a very, very good question, Eugene. A lot of people don't know that. I mean, just as important, the eating is more important than the actual HIIT workout. If you do a HIIT workout and you don't nourish yourself afterwards, it's like you're going to throw it in the trash, right? So, very good question, Eugene. Now, that recovery shake, what you put in your body after the workout.
Roland need the smoothies. Put them onto the smoothies.
You know what? I'm actually, you know what, Roland, tomorrow maybe we'll go over a little smoother tutorial. Me and you, Roland, I'll give you a FaceTime call and we'll make some good recovery shakes. That's a great question, though, Eugene.
Julianne, what's your question?
I'm just laughing at y'all. Brother, so you've described the HIIT workout, which I've done before. It didn't seem to have that same effect. What did I do wrong?
Because you probably were doing it slow.
That and I'm gonna deliver a little bit better than Roland did. So what it is? Did you do it on the clock? A lot of people, you can't just do HIIT, and because what people often do is you count yourself, right? And I know when I get tired, 30 seconds might be 20 seconds. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta live by that clock, man. That's the key thing if you're gonna do a HIIT. It's gotta be a minute on, 30 seconds off, and you gotta be low to the clock. Now, if you were in there without a clock, you were just making up your own time. I mean, it was just, you were just doing what you want. But once that clock gives you that accountability, and that keeps that workout intense.
Okay. That's
Michael.
what I did wrong.
Gotta watch that clock.
Hey, Jim, I have a 2-part question. My wife is a workout fiend, and she does, but she focuses a lot on weights and hip thrusts. She wants to mix in HIIT, but her body's obviously tired from lifting all the time. So how should she, kind of balance between HIIT and weight training?
That's a very, very, very good question, because a lot of times when people do weights, they can't, I don't even do both, right? I actually split it up. I go 3 days weights and 3 days with HIIT. So she should just divvy it up, right? I would say just on your HIIT days, focus on HIIT, because if you're accountable and you're loyal to that clock, that stopwatch, you're not going to be able to do both. It's going to wear you out, right? So I would suggest she do her weights one day, do her resistance training, and then the next day she do her HIIT, and just stagger it like that. That'll make it much more feasible and effective.
And should she take 1 day off per week or 2 days off per week? Because she and I get into it a little bit. I think she should at least take 1 day off.
How good do you want her to look? That's the question. Now, if you want to look at me, how aggressive are her goals, right? I mean, If she's going for the summertime, I mean, I would say take 1 day or 2 days a week off. But if she, she's kind of in the maintaining stage, she can take 2 to 3 days a week off, work out 4 days. But it's getting warm outside. It sounds like she wants to be in tip-top shape for the summertime. I would say do 5 days working on, take 2 days off.
And then real quick, what is your opinion of these new high-tech bikes with the streaming? Do you like them, not like them?
See, this is my thing. My thing is whatever gets people to work out. If you have to buy a Peloton or one of these bikes with a monitor with someone screaming and yelling at you, if that gets you to do it, then do it, right? I say do whatever works for you. I mean, me personally, I don't do well with a person on the bike. I like to actually get in the gym. But for a lot of people, I mean, with the pandemic, you want to stay isolated. I would say, man, if the bike helps you out, you can put your playlist on. You can have your favorite instructor. You can feel like you're in a New York City spin studio. Then whatever dream you got to create to work out, just do it.
Yeah,
all right.
Thank you very much.
Somebody on YouTube asked, if you have recovered from a major injury like an ACL tear, should you still do HIIT workouts?
No, you should not do HIIT workouts. So you will never ever recover from an ACL tear. You want to rehab that first, right? I tell a lot of people, there's if you come back from an injury, the key part is your diet. I tell people that's really most of getting your results is the diet. So if you're coming from an injury or if you have a knee problem, back problem, any ailment where you can't do HIIT, just go intense on that diet. And that goes back to what Eugene said earlier, get your smoothies in, get your meal plan tight, really focus on your diet if you're injured. That's going to be the main thing.
All right, last point here. A lot of people have been talking about the gallon challenge, drinking a gallon of water a day.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that because what that does, Roland, I tell people, if they're drinking the gallon of water, that also flushes good nutrients out too. I think people don't understand it shouldn't be all clear. Your urine shouldn't be all clear. It has to be something in there, right? And so I think the gallon just flushes everything. I would say go 2 liters a day. A gallon just it flushes the good mineral. You lose a lot of minerals when you're drinking a gallon of water a day, and that's one of the biggest misconceptions.
Really?
I've seen. Yes, absolutely, 100%. 100%.
So when people say this whole notion that, okay, you take your weight, cut it in half, and you drink that many ounces of water, you don't agree with that?
I agree with. Listen, I just say go about 2 liters a day. I wouldn't say a gallon is way too much. You're gonna start flushing out the essential minerals that your body needs, right? I tell you, you're just flushing everything out at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. So a gallon's a little. Yeah, no. I tell my clients don't do the gallon. 2 liters a day that's good.
All right, 2 liters a day.
2 liters a day. Give me a gallon. Gallon every day. I mean that's a lot of work on your system. That's truly that's flushing the good stuff out too.
Okay. All right. That'll work.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions, Eugene, Julian, and Michael?
Oh, no, we good.
So Julian, Jim was like, speed your damn workouts up.
Yeah, that's all. Speed your workouts up. They can find me if you need help. I got plenty of tutorials. GYMJONEZ on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm Roland's favorite on Twitter. Hey, Roland, you love me on Twitter. It is at Jim Jones Global.
Actually, I don't. But you can keep making that stuff up. So, all right. I appreciate it, Jim. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, Roland.
All right, folks. Man, we lost a couple of folks over the weekend, and that is trailblazing CBS Sports anchor Irv Cross. Passed away yesterday near his home in Roseville, Minnesota. He played for the NFL with Philadelphia Eagles and the LA Rams and was voted to the Pro Bowl twice in his career before becoming an assistant coach in the NFL. Many remember him for spending nearly a decade on CBS's pregame show, The NFL Today, where he became the first black man to deliver sports analysis on national television. He talked about, of course, when he joined CBS, they wanted him to be more like Shaft, literally wearing leisure suits and a big medallion. He said, no, I'm going to go ahead and rock the sports coat. Many of us remember Irv Cross for his great work. He was 81 years old. Also, we remember Sheila Washington. She founded an Alabama museum dedicated to the memory of the Scottsboro Boys, a group of young black men unjustly convicted of crimes in the 1930s. She passed away of a heart attack in January at a hospital in Huntsville. She was 61 years old. She made it her lifelong mission to obtain posthumous justice for the 9 young black men who had been accused of raping 2 white women on a train in 1931. Through multiple trials, 2 of which reached the United States Supreme Court, the plight of the Scottsboro Boys became one of the country's first major civil rights cases. In 2010, after years of fundraising and acquiring artifacts, Washington opened the Scottsboro Boys Museum and Cultural Center in a building that had once been an African-American church. She is survived by 2 children, 2 sisters, a half-sister, 3 stepsisters, 4 grandchildren, and a great-granddaughter. Our thoughts and prayers really go out to her as well as Irv Cross. Eugene, Julian, Michael, we certainly appreciate both of you being, all 3 of you being on the panel today. Folks, don't forget, if you want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, please do so by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars go to support this show, everything that we do. You can support us via Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal.me/R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland@RolandSMartin.com, or Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can also send us money order to New Vision Media, 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 2006. All right, I'm going to do this here real quick. There were some folks who sent us some notes in, so let me go ahead and read this. Roland, thank you for the vision. You had to keep our people connected. Make sure to keep our young people trained in the art. Donna Duncan, we certainly appreciate your contribution, Donna, to our Bring the Funk fan club. All right, let me open this one up. Literally, y'all, I came in today, and these are waiting on me. I got lots of others, but I'm going to try to read these today. Big thanks to Gail Hollingsworth. Gail, I appreciate it. Rochester, New York. I always enjoy going to Rochester, New York. That's where Frederick Douglass is actually buried. Rochester, New York. So I took some photos of his grave site. Lord have mercy. Y'all like seriously put the extra tape. I can't even get in this bad boy. Let me do it from the bottom. You know, I always get a kick out of that, folks. They tape the top, but the bottom is still can be open. All right, here we go. Let's see here. A blessing is just what you need right when you need it. Let's see here. Roland, I appreciate what you do. Continue to inform us. We need it. Thanks, Anita. Anita gave $50 in 2020, and she's given $100 in 2021. And so, Anita Riggins. Anita, I certainly appreciate it. And then she says, right on, Greg Carr and Gary. So, all right, I'll be sure to tell them that. Okay, let's see here. Let me see who I got right here. Okay, I don't know who this is. I gotta open it up. Let's see. Let me open it up. Okay. Newton Pinnock, Toronto, Canada. Newton, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Whoa, Newton, you sent. Okay, hold up. All right, Newton, you got to help me out here, Newton. You sent me 3 checks. Okay, is Newton trying to get me to mail something? Yes. Okay. Newton sent me 3 checks, y'all. 1 for the show, which I appreciate. A General G.M.J. Johnson Legal Defense Fund. Okay, I don't know what that is. And the NFAC Land Project Soldiers. I don't know what that is. Okay, try to make me do some homework, Newton. I'm gonna have to figure that one out. Okay, now Newton sent me 3 checks from Canada for me to forward the other 2 checks. Okay, I'm gonna try to sit here and figure that one out. All right, Newton, you try to make me do some extra work, man. Okay, all right, let's see here. Last envelope I'm gonna open. This is a shout out to Ronnie Mae Carey. Ronnie Mae from Eugene, Oregon. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Folks, that is it for us, Roland Martin Unfiltered. If y'all want to support what we do, go to Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal.me/R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered, Roland@RolandSMartin.com for Zelle, and of course, New Vision Media, 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 2006. Let me go ahead and do this here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shout out the Zelle people. This is going to be the last thing here for today's show. Let me pull it up. A lot of y'all, man, were giving on Zelle. I was like taking this thing back. I was looking at a whole bunch of names of people who had given to us on Zelle. And so I'm just going to do this here. I'm going to go back 2 months. Just give me a second. I'm going to read all these names. We have folks who give us, again, Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, and I appreciate every single one of y'all. We have, like I say, done some amazing things. We were on the road last week. We're planning on making a trip to Houston in March. We got some interviews lined up. So we got lots of different things that we got planned on. So let me go here. Deborah Bolin, Richard Bromfield. Let's see here. Corey Poe, Alicia Thomas, LaTanya Darton, Lovey Ware, Festus, Sagun Osidi, Ethel Edmond, Nancy Alston, Carol David, Danelle Isom, Brenda McGowan, Nicole Catlett, Kyle White, Adiga Boyega, Owadolo, Patrick Grinaway, Danita Baker, Melba Thornton, Beverly Lowry, Dawn Averetti, D. Carter, Afroware Company, Constance Cardwell Burnell, Sharon Mack. Shout out to Roxanne Holyfield. Also, Rhonda Miller, Junior Campbell, Carlisha Porter, Rose Marie, Ashley Miles, Sarah Harris, Pamela Miller. Let's see here. Rose Nancy Joseph, Nicola Massey, Stephanie Lomax, LaTanya Strickland, Eloise Knox, Mac Frost, Patricia Brown, George White, Maverick Davis, Vinco Bing, Nicole Norris, Veronica Lano or Lanix, Marie Adelaide, let's see here, Michelle Akyem, okay, Akyempong. Akyempong, okay, I'm just trying to, that's a guess, y'all. Hope Clark, Lula White, Essie Lockett, Fritz Elliott, Quanisha Wells, Dwayne Oates. Let's see here. Y'all, some of these names, I'm trying to do my best. Tanya Randall, Deborah Rogers, Connie Bowman. Let's see, this is all Zale. Timothy Smith, Carla Locke, Rainey Collins, Ray Malone, Mark Green, Anthony Johnson, Danetta Tolston, Sakita Grant, Vicky Mayberry, Maurice Whitaker, Tracy McAllister. Let's see here. Michelle Jones, Winford Hill, April Champion, Walter Ingram, ATLLC, Carmela Larry, Ambrosia Gallimore, Tequila Davis, appreciate it, Annette Burnett, Frederick Phillips, Clifford Armstead, Jahi Belton, Jerome Cooper, Malcolm Brown, Cherry Flowers, Stephen Clare. Stephen said, don't quit. I got you, Stephen. Patricia Fitzgerald, Teresita Reed. Let's see here. Solomon Funny, Samil Graves, Shirley Whitfield, Sean Montgomery, Annette Lyons, Linda Palmer. Let's see here. Robin Thames, Nandima Teray, Helen Taylor, Carolyn Williams, Karen Bolton, Trina Dunson, Ralph Jr., Ramona Rainey. Let's see here. Almost done, y'all. Lavinia Dover, Celeste Akers, Robin Thames, Nandima Teray, she gave again. I appreciate it. Helen Taylor, Carolyn Williams gave again. I appreciate it. Karen Bolton, Trina Dunson, Ralph Jr. Y'all gave multiple times. Ramona Rainey, Lavinia Dover. Y'all gave multiple times. I appreciate it. Celesta Akers, Tammy Barnett, Marlo Key, Horace Sanders, Etha Dawson, Belinda McCullough, Paul Roberts, Elaine St. Rose, Toby Olafosoye, Leon Walters, Andrea Bowman, Ronald Connolly, Harold Swinton, Laquetta Durant, Brian Price, Tammy Barnett, Marlo Key, Horace Sanders. Let me go. Keep going. All right then, y'all. Here we go. I did Ronald Conley. Okay. Deborah Jarvishal. Deborah, I appreciate it. Tracy McCullough. Gail Royster. Melissa Haynes. Catherine Daniels. Ronald Chappelle. Kirby McFall. Diori Jones. Linda Williams. Let's see here. Glossy Eccles. Alonzo Montgomery. Michael McPherson. Stephen Williams. Deborah Jarvisall. Let's see here. Tracy McCullough. Tracy, appreciate it. Gail Royster. Melissa Haynes. Catherine Daniels. Ronald Chappelle. Kirby McFall. Let's see here. Diori Jones. Man, y'all hooking us up. Barry Solomon. Woo, Barry. Barry said, please upgrade your YouTube. Barry, we on that thing. Taylor Hooks. Melissa Haynes. Sherilyn Parham. Christopher Taylor. I'm almost done, y'all. Crystal Edwards. Louise Hilliard. Alina Franklin B. Celestine Russell. Big contribution, I appreciate it. And that is it. But I gotta give another shout out. I ain't gonna tell you how much Barry Solomon gave, but Barry, you the man. That's it for y'all. Everybody who gets $50 or more, you get a shout out. I surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Holla!